All right, guys, welcome to Monday or Tuesday, whichever day you're in. We're going to go ahead and get started with the stations. I should have explained most of that to you already, so we're going to dive right in to what we're doing today. Today, we're going to look at the rise and fall of Napoleon. He is a military genius, seizes power, takes over in France, and makes himself emperor. So we're starting out with this quote: "A revolution can neither be made nor stopped. The only thing that can be done is for one of its several children to give it direction by dint of victory." So this is coming off of the French Revolution. Remember, we just had the Reign of Terror. A new legislature is going to take over and can make Napoleon commander of armies, not king, not emperor, but commander of armies. So early life, Napoleon was born in Corsica, attends military school, joins the army. 1795, he is going to defeat rebels attacking the National Convention. Again, this was the third convention, or the third different government after the National Assembly, Legislative Assembly, then the National Convention in France. So very unstable time. He defeats those attacking the National Convention. Remember, other countries were coming after France because they heard about all the craziness going on. So Napoleon wins stunning victories in Italy, gaining popularity. He is in November of 1799. 4 years later, he carries out the coup d'etat, which is basically just a takeover of power. He defeats the British, Russians, Austrians who joined forces up against him. They look at France as kind of oh shoot, if the poor people can overthrow the king in France, why can't they do it in the other countries? So they try and shut this down, what's going on in France. So with that, you have military success and these other reasons I'm about to go over why Napoleon gained popularity in France. He sets up a national banking system, more importantly, an efficient tax collection system where most of your rich people are now going to have to start paying taxes. It was just the poor people. Bad idea. You're not making any money off the taxes if you do that. Establish lycees to run public schools, government-run public schools to train officials. This is setting up the future of France well because they're all going to be loyal to France. They're all going to be on the same page when it comes to education. Signs Concordat, which is the restoring Catholicism. Catholics are very happy with this in France, as again, the other group, the Jacobins, took out religion. He's going to bring it back as many people wanted that. Napoleonic Code, uniform system of laws. So this is where everybody's on the same page. There's no special treatment just in case you got money or something along those lines. And after all this military success, he makes to where most of the population, 97%, are now on a better tax system. That alone right there, along with some of these other things, is reason enough to put himself and make himself emperor of France, which now he has the ability to do that. So no one elects him. No one says, hey, you should be king. He does it himself, but he's got enough popularity to where he can do it. All right. So in 1801, he attempts to retake the colony of Saint-Domingue, but fails. He says, you know what? Why am I worried about the Americas? I need to be concentrating trying to take over Europe. So let's get rid of the Americas. He sells Louisiana Territory to the United States for $15 million in 1803. How does this help France? It puts money in the pockets. Now they can invest in those schools and those military conquests that he's trying to be about. So Britain, Russia, Austria, Sweden joined forces against Napoleon because they know he's trying to take over land and make France a strong empire. His main focus was to conquer Europe. He forces these countries to now sign peace treaties. So let's look at what he's done in just 6 short years as emperor. Your dark purple here is the French Empire. Not sure if you can see this arrow or not. Your light purple here are countries controlled by Napoleon. I'll tell you in just a minute how he does control them, being that he is in France. Your pink countries those are his boys, those are his people that are allies with them, and then the yellow are the countries at war with him. So we just have Portugal and Great Britain that still have an issue with him, but otherwise he's doing pretty good. All right, so the first battle with the British, he is going to try and invade Britain. But one thing you've learned throughout history, hopefully, if you don't, you're learning today, you don't mess with Britain's navy. Okay, so this is going to be a problem for Napoleon. He has to look for another way to control Britain. French Empire now controls all of Europe except for Britain, Portugal, Sweden, and the Ottomans. He has puppet rulers in some countries and alliances with others. Basically, he would put like his brother in charge of Spain or his other relative in charge of a different country. That way, he's really controlling that country without controlling it. So things are going great in France. At least it reaches its largest it's ever been from 1807 to 1812. Everything's going in his favor, and then he gets too big for his britches. And we'll talk about 3 crucial mistakes that he makes and is going to contribute to his downfall. Continental system, this is where he again tries to go after Britain. This is first crucial mistake. You don't go after Britain. Navy, he tries to set up a blockade around Britain, making ships around Britain. But their navy stronger than France's navy. So Britain responds with a blockade of its own, led by a stronger navy. This does no major damage to Britain. That's his first mistake. Second mistake is the Peninsular War. His brother is in charge of Spain. The Spanish are what's going to be known as nationalists, where they have nationalism, a strong sense of pride in their country. So they fight back. Napoleon loses 300,000 soldiers during this Peninsular War, and they fight the French in other conquered territories. So this is the second mistake, sending troops across Spain to attack Portugal. So Portugal, they again, along with the Spanish, are going to fight back, saying, we're Spanish, we're Portuguese. We are not going to just become French. And third and final mistake, this is the one that if you look throughout history is going to be crucial. We'll come back to this in World War II. You do not invade Russia during the winter. Why? Kind of obvious. Look at Russia on a map. You don't invade Russia during the winter. And he sends some in June, 420,000 men, thinking it's going to be great. We're going to take over Russia and all this territory is going to be mine. However, the Russians use scorched earth policy where they destroy the crops, the livestock, so the French can't live off the land. In September 1812, the Russians retreat from Moscow after Battle of Borodino, and Napoleon finds Moscow abandoned and burning. Napoleon retreats, losing thousands of soldiers to raids and cold weather. So by the time, remember they started in June, but by the time winter hit, too much for Napoleon, third and worst mistake. So now these countries that have joined against Napoleon are getting a little bit stronger because Napoleon's losing so many men in Portugal and Russia. So Napoleon finally surrenders and is exiled to the island of Elba, which, if you look up here, is just off the coast of Italy. 100 days, Louis XVIII is now king, but is soon overthrown, and Napoleon returns from exile. Battle of Waterloo is where Britain and Prussia forces to defeat Napoleon's army. This ends what is known as the 100 days that Napoleon was in power. He is exiled to St. Helena and dies in 1821 of a stomach ailment. So after Napoleon, European leaders look at this and say, we have to try to do something to restore order and reestablish peace to where this can't happen. Some guy just tries to come in and take over Europe. So they were trying to restore monarchs disposed by Napoleon. He took over certain kings. They're going to try and put them back in power. European nations agree to preserve peace, which lasts almost 40 years, which back then was pretty good as far as peace lasting for 40 years. So this was the Congress of Vienna. So the legacy behind Napoleon, conservative Europe, again, all of these kings that were taken over by Napoleon, they are now going to be put back in power. Revolutions in Latin America, Napoleon's replacing a king of Spain set off rebellions saying, well, what if, for example, in Haiti or Dominican Republic or different countries in Latin America, they're going to say, well, we are not Spanish, we are Latin. So we're going to start our own sense of nationalism or pride in our country. So Britain, Prussia gained more power, but this spreading of nationalism leads to more and more revolutions. People saw democracy as best way to ensure equality and justice for all. This changed Europe Europeans' old notions that